And welcome to Faith and Count, class number 179 for all of those people out there in TV land. You remember that? It's from the 60s, if you're old enough. All right. So tonight we're going to continue because everybody's interested in what is happening, the connection between the Parsha, Torah, and current events. Or as my wife called this class, what was it? God has a plan. God has a plan. Yes, he does definitely have a plan.
There are two different speakers.
Oh yes, and don't and if you those people listening later, there are two speakers. I speak at the beginning, and then my wife speaks later. So please listen to my wife because she will definitely have a lot much more about what current events are. I try and bridge the gap between the two, which is of course impossible, but we'll try. And partly, let's do something like this. We're still living with Avram Avinu, our forefather, who really defined what is a Jew for the Jewish people. And we all, our traits and who we are in our core, deep down, is all coming from Avram Avinu. So the rabbis say an interesting thing about Jews and the distinguishing characters of a Jew and how to know that somebody is a Jew or not a Jew. It's not about any physical characteristics. It's about the spiritual characteristics. And Gemara talks about this. They say the Gemara, and I think Baba Metzia says there are three identifying traits of a Jew, and simanim, as it calls them. And the three are that they are rachmanas, which means that they have mercy on other people, that they have boshus, that they don't like to brag. They're a little shy about themselves. And the third is that they are gemilat chasadim, that they like to give charity, they like to help other people, they like to do acts of kindness. These are the three essential traits. And the Rambam, interestingly enough, says that, if a person doesn't present these traits, whether it's one or all three, then there's a question on their whether maybe they're not really so Jewish. Maybe they're not Jewish. And we want to understand that in the context of current events. So, but what are these three traits really? So let's take the first one, the Rachmanis. They have mercy on other people, that they really don't like to be cruel and vindictive or hurt other people. They have a soft heart. And I was just thinking, was listening to Rabbi Manis Friedman, and he was asked, about the following question. He says, they a lot of things they like to slam us in this blood libel about how Jews are cruel and violent and bloodthirsty, and they kill Christian children, and now they kill Muslim children, and they don't care about innocent civilians and so forth like that. And he said something that really should stick in. Everybody should have this in their weapons because we're all in a battle here. He says, look, the Arabs have done many battles in the last 2 decades, 3 decades even, and certainly before. There was a fight between Saudi Arabia and the Yemenite Houthis. There was Syria throughout ISIS and so forth. In all of these battles, Iran and Iraq and so forth, they never took captives. They never used children as human shields. They never hid behind innocent women and civilians in those battles. You know why? Very simply, the Arabs could care less. They don't care about death. They're proud. They want to die. That's what they say. We're going to die for Islam. And they especially like somebody else to die for them. That's why they'll use them to dig tunnels and die and suffocate inside of them. That's why they'll shoot at them when they try and escape from the northern Gaza. They don't care that much about human life, and certainly children's lives. When in Western world, children's lives are very important. So that's the reason they know we have a soft spot. And we tell everybody we have a soft spot. And therefore, they know the way to attack the Jews is to say, is to use this. To hold them. So therefore, so they know that we are the Rahmanis people. We have a very difficult time doing what we have to do in time of war. It's very difficult for us. They have no problem. They have no problem at all. That they'll be underneath the hospitals. They'll be using the schools. They'll be using the children to shelter. They'll do anything. They're sandbags. They're just, another. So yeah. So that's one of the traits of a Jew. Interesting enough.
I think you made the point clearly that they don't use children as shields with their fellow Arabs.
Yeah.
Because the fellow Arabs, they don't think it doesn't deter them from shooting.
Right.
But it will deter a Jew from shooting.
Okay.
Can I ask you, do the human shields themselves, if they are adults, even care, or do they also feel like they're dying for?
It varies. It varies. All the children TV programs, their Sesame Street with all their stuffed animals, all talk about how wonderful it is to die, and the little kids all say how wonderful it is to die. So it may be. They're indoctrinated in it. Whether they're naturally that way or not, because they're children of Ishmael, I don't know. But maybe
No.
But maybe I don't know how much.
It's not really the right question to ask you. It's not your area of expertise.
Yeah, that's not
my.
But this is Yishmael. Yishmael came from a chesed, came from Avraham, but his kindness is not a kindness that really, his charity also. He said Gemilus Hasadim, giving acts of kindness. You can either have one way or the other way of doing acts of kindness. Either you can do it as the way of Yishmael, which is, I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud that other people are poor. I'm so proud of people that I'm able to do something for somebody else. And Jews have another source, really, which is, it says in the Gemara, it says that more than the rich man does for the poor person, the poor man does for the rich person. So the Rebbe brings this out. I was learning a sikha from the Rebbe on the subject, and the Rebbe says, you know what? That makes a Jew feel terrible, because you know what? The only reason that this person is lacking something or is sick or needs acts of kindness is so that I should get a lesson in how to be nice to somebody else. That's terrible. It's only because of me that this other person is suffering. That's awful. And there's a story actually from the Frierdiker Rebbe when he was traveling away from Hebron, and he was on a boat, and he got very sick. When he heard the news about the Hebron massacres in 1929, he became very sick. And there was a Jewish doctor there who healed him. And afterwards, the doctor came and asked forgiveness for the Frierdiker Rebbe. Frierdiker said, "Why? You saved my life." He says, "Yeah, but if I wasn't here on the boat, you would have been healed. You would never gotten sick in the first place, because God would have had to have healed you directly rather than have to use me as the doctor to heal you." So a Jew feels bad, feels bad that he's actually the vehicle that has to be used to helping somebody else. Better is that people should be healthy for themselves. And that all is rooted in the attribute of a bashfulness of the Jew. The Jew does not like to brag. He doesn't like to talk great about himself and how great the Jews are and how feel that he's a chosen person. He really feels uncomfortable about this whole thing. And it's all because of basically, at core, the Rebbe explains, the core Jew is bittul. He thinks like, you know what, if anybody else was given these talents and these traits and mind and money and capabilities, they do a better job than me. And therefore, a Jew is by inheritance from Avraham Avinu is therefore bashful. He doesn't think it's about himself, and that leads to he has mercy on other people because he can feel like he's not such a big shot, and other people really should should deserve also, and therefore he acts and does acts of kindness. So all three are actually all connected to one thing, and that's why they mention them in the Gemara as all as one thing. I thought that was interesting. I learned that as a sikha on Shabbos, and I thought that was relevant to some of the things that you see today, which, people who are, there are people who are coming out of the woodwork, and they are, some non-Jews are just fantastic. They just have these some of these traits and so forth. But sometimes it's coming from a sense of liberalism, which really is they want to be kind to other people, but really they hate other people, and they come out on the campuses and it's a lot of hate. And you wonder, why is that? They should be very much, worried about the rights of women and the rights of children and of other kinds of stuff. And if it comes out in terms of hatred of other people, it's probably because they're not doing it out of a sense of really caring about the other person. They're doing it because they want to feel good for themselves and they want to feel like they're superior to somebody else. And we take care of people of color, and we take care of people of this, and we take care of people who are outsiders. And therefore, we feel that we're you're so great about yourself, So
Cheskel Shimon, I'm a little bit confused. You're not talking about the Jews now. You're talking about
ultra liberals, but we're also talking.
Well, that's what I thought you were talking about.
But we're talking also about Jews. And so that's an interesting also part that I wanted to cover today, which is, of course, we dealt with the story in this parsha with Lot. Now, I said this before, but Rabbi YY said it again this week in the class that I sponsored for my father, so I thought it was relevant. It's very much part of the story. Now, we know a little bit about the story of Lot. He went to Stone. He did very well in Stone. He became a very rich man. He became very well integrated in the community. He became a judge. He was an important figure. He was one of the establishment in the figure. In fact, he was very much accepted. He married off two of his older daughters, two very prominent Sodom bankers and businessmen and so forth like that. And so forth. He was part of that culture. And then the two angels come to him and tell him, you got to get out of this place. This place is corrupt and evil and it's awful. And you have to flee for your lives. And there's a moment where Lot has a moment of indecision. And you wonder why. And it says it in that note on his, it says, Yismameh.
You don't know that.
Right? The Shaloshetas, the very rare note when you read the Torah, the one that goes zigzag back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And what does that mean? That he had a moment of indecision, hesitation.
Oh, I did hear that at shul at Laning. I did hear that.
Because that note wanders back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's really telling you about a word that you don't even have in Hebrew. There is no such word for ambivalence. I don't know, remember the rabbi was once talking, he was talking to a bunch of Israelis, and he said, what's the word for ambivalence? And the Israelis don't have no word for ambivalence because no Israeli is ambivalent about anything. They're very confident about whatever they are. But in Judaism, we have a note for ambivalence, and that was Lot at this particular point. Now, the question is why was Lot so ambivalent? Why couldn't he make up his mind? Get out of there. They told you, get out of there.
Why would you want
the answer is because he invested himself for 50 years in that community. And therefore, he spent his whole life. And this is not a new situation in history. Jews in Germany in the 30s knew that also could see what was the handwriting on the wall. But you know what? They were very much part of German culture. They knew Schiller, they knew Bach. There was the foreign minister of Germany was named Rathenauer. He was in the 30s. He was a Jew. He was assassinated in the early 1930s probably because he was a Jew. So Jews knew what was going on in Germany, and yet they couldn't leave. Why couldn't they leave? Why couldn't they just float away? And the answer was the same as Lot. When you think like, Germany is the future, and you gave up your Judaism for Germany, it's very, very hard to run away. And I know this very personally because my last name is Gutfreund and my family was wiped out in the Holocaust. So I know my grandmother's generation, both on my mother's side and my father's side and so forth. And they were very much part of the German Jewish community. And it was even when they came to America, it was very, very hard for them to strip themselves and to reject that whole German culture and so forth. It was very much part of, the science, the education, the university, all this other kind of stuff. It was very much part of who they were. And
so it's not the actual country.
No,
but it's the culture. Because I was thinking Spain also. The Spanish didn't want to leave, but that had nothing to do with Spanish culture. That was because they just didn't want to lose their money.
And we see this now also with a lot of very, very, as I mentioned earlier, very, very liberal Jews. Some of them are having moments of regret And Rabbi Waiwai mentioned he read 2 columns by 2 women in the Haaretz newspaper. Haaretz is an extremely left-wing newspaper. And they were writing and saying we have no home anymore because they thought they were part of this international community of left-wing enlightened people. And all of a sudden they saw what enlightenment meant. And it's not enlightenment. It's no more enlightenment than the universities have any enlightenment. 32 of the most elite universities all came out, and they don't have anything to say against about, they can't condemn any of this, which is out and out immorality. And they can't teach that. They can't say that, this is sickening. And this is the problem that a lot of American Jews are having right now. They're having their Yisma moments where they're ambivalent. They don't know that they have to say, what, I invested and I believed in universities and I believed in liberalism and I believed in all this other kind of stuff. And we have to help them because they gotta flee, just like Lot, because there were 2 Jewish psychologists who actually put a name for this phenomenon. They called it cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. This term came from 2 Jews because you live in a culture and you're a Jew and you know that you have a higher mission. But on the other hand, you feel like you have to be accepted. And Lot's wife, she had something called post-cognitive dissonance. Lot was told not to look back. And she looked back, meaning even after you make your decision and you finally cut yourself off, sometimes people still think, maybe I shouldn't have run away from Sodom so early. Maybe those people were right. What happened to Lot, and it was a very sad story. He went and he talked to his 2 son-in-laws in the city, and they treated him like a joke. He told them that the city's going to be destroyed. They said, you're just a foolish greenhorn, dirty Jew, and we just pretended to like you, but we really all the time knew you were a Jew and you weren't part of one of us.
He's not a Jew.
And this is really
He's not even a Jew. He's a
and
relative of a Jew.
Yeah, but that's how they treated him, and that's what happened to a lot of German Jews too. That they saw how they were being treated by the Germans, and they couldn't leave. So it's a very much a relevant story for all of us today, and a lot of our families and so forth who are very much thought that they could somehow have a new Jew identity other than being a Jew, and they're waking up now and saying, you know what? There's nothing there. Jew is what you are, and that's pretty good. The second piece of information that very much related to this week's parsha is we have a story that's a little hard to understand, which is that Avram had 2 children. One was Yishmael, and the other one was Yitzchak. And Sarah, at one point in time, saw how Yishmael was behaving, and he was behaving like an Arab. And she said, this kid can't stay here any longer. He can't inherit together with my son Yitzchak. Now, if you read that on the surface, you might think that Sarah just wanted all the money for her son Yitzchak. What's wrong with Avram's a rich man? Can't you give some inheritance to Yitzchak? To Ishmael? How do you have to give 100% to Sarah's kid? And the rabbis explained that's not what she was saying. What she was saying was a very insightful element that what women sense that maybe the man didn't understand, but Sarah certainly could see it in Ishmael. She didn't hate Ishmael. She said the nature of the Arab mind is that they cannot inherit together with the Jews. Meaning what? So you see it even today. Many people say, you know what? Israel should be generous to the non-Jews. Divide the land. Let them have their place to live. That's what Ariel Sharon tried to do in Gaza. He said, you know what? They're going to make a Singapore there. Give them the land. Let them be in charge. Let them take care of themselves and so forth. and let them do what they, what they need to do in Gaza and so forth, but drive the Jews out there and let them have their own country. And what do you find out? Ishmael doesn't hear that. He doesn't hear that we're doing 50-50. He wants the whole thing. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be Jew-free. That's what they're saying. The extermination of every single Jew. They want every single Jew out of there. That's what they want. They can't.
I mean, it's not the first, you know what I mean? Like there was a huge chunk that was given back. I don't remember what year it was. That whole bottom hook of Israel.
Many times. So what it means is basically is that Ishmael cannot be compromised. In the Western world, with Western mentality, compromise is a nice thing. In the Arab world, there's no such thing. It's everything. A Jew doesn't belong there. It's all for us. They don't belong there, and therefore they don't belong anywhere in Israel. They don't belong anywhere in the world. There should be only one thing, which is Allah. There's no room for anything else because that would be a denial of the truth of their religion. So Yishmael only hears one thing, absolutism. And they're very much that culture. And if you don't understand that, then you didn't understand what Sarah Imeinu was saying. It's not that that you couldn't give him half the inheritance. He can't take half the inheritance. He has to have all of it because it all has to be his way. That's the only way they see it. And if you give them part, it means that they were right, and therefore they should eventually get the whole thing. That's how they operate. So Sarah was telling you something very important about the entire mentality of how things operate in that area. You've got to indicate to them, you can't have any peace together with anyone else. Go back to Arabia where you belong. You don't want to share an inheritance. And I know you don't want to share an inheritance. So Jews have to be very strong on this. This is a time of war, the time of battle. It's a time of being very positive, strong about what we know and what's true and what's wrong, not true. And not just trying to be nice to other people and so forth, and being the messengers of, hey, you know what? The truth is much more powerful than me or anyone else. The truth is, the Arabs, they don't want. You try and bribe them and give them money. They think it's an insult. You're insulting me. Don't give me land. Don't give me money. Don't give me bennies. I want complete. What I want. So. You just
Can I ask you before you go on?
Yep.
I'm sorry. So in the end with Yishmael and so what is so she sends him away and that resolves the problem. So he doesn't get any.
Yeah, because he
doesn't get any
with us. And the last thing is, of course, is it's a hard story to understand. That Avram, wherever he went, he told Sarah, he said, "Say that you're my sister." And it seems like it got them into a lot of trouble. It got them in trouble in Egypt. They got them in trouble when they went to Gerar, which is part of Gaza, with Avimelech. It got Yitzchak in trouble with Rivka. Why are you saying, say my sister? Say she's my wife. And the answer is, interesting enough, Avram was saying the following. He says, listen, whenever we go somewhere, whenever we're traveling out in the world, the most important thing to know is that we're brothers and sisters and that we're all part of one family. We might argue with each other. We may have different ways of looking at things. But the bottom line is, you're my brother, you're my sister, and I will do everything to save you and to take part because you're part of my family. And that is what the Jews are finding out these days. And as the famous line that I heard from him again, which is, there's a certain kind of tree that grows in California. It's called the redwoods, the sequoias. And they grow to like 300 feet tall, which seems very tall for a tree. You would think that the tree is a very unusual tree and it must have a huge root system and it must go very, very deep. And when they actually dug up these trees, they found that they were very shallow roots. They rarely go 6 feet down. But the one thing that they do is when underneath the ground, they intertwine with each other and they all form one big brotherhood. So outside, they all look different, and outside, they're all different kinds of trees. But at the roots, under the ground, they're all tied and bound together, and that keeps them from being knocked over in the storm. So a very strong message right now for the Jewish people is Jewish unity. I know some people are more religious, less religious, this, that, whatever. They have different feelings and stuff like that. But our main charge right now is to emphasize the fact you're my brother, you're my sister. And I just want to be able to take care of you and help you know. And if you are stuck in a vis mamea moment and you are wandering back and forth and you got some ambivalence and so forth like that, let me help you, and so forth, and realize who your core is. And with that, I think I'll turn the class over to my wife, who has some fantastic stories.
No,
Please don't. She does say it. She told me she's been printing them out all day. I mean, so I don't know. But she's very bashful, and so she doesn't like to talk about herself. Can we just not go schmooze so much and go on?
Thank you so much, Crystal Shimon. It was very, very wonderful what you were talking
Okay.
about.
All right. Thank you. All right. We've been recording here, and we're still recording.
So you were a clown in class too? I hope you didn't get in trouble.
I think he did. I think he did. Okay.
Oh.
Oh, I can't turn this off. Just 1 second. I want to turn off this. Okay, it's going to turn off now. Okay. First of all, welcome everybody. Oh, so glad to see you all. So glad to see you, Sophia, and all the people who listen afterwards. I'm so happy that you're joining us. And I called this class God Has a Plan. Well, first of all, let me say the 4 things that I always say. Number 1, we're living in a unique time. How do we know that it's a unique time? Because the Lubavitcher Rebbe told us in 1992 that we're entering the beginning stages of the era of the redemption. And as much as things look completely to the contrary, the Rebbe was never wrong about any public prediction that he made. And he made the most defying, most things that people thought couldn't possibly come true. He knew that the Russian Jews were coming out of Russia before Gorbachev ever dreamed that Gorbachev himself would do that. Gorbachev told that to Herman Branover. Anyway, it's a long story. I could tell, we've told it many times. And the Rebbe was the only voice before the 6-Day War saying not only is it going to be fine, the Jews are going to emerge with an amazing victory. And the anti-religious newspapers in Israel were publishing, even though they don't like anything that the Rebbeim would say, they publicized him. Everybody was so panic-stricken in Israel that they publicized in big letters. Lubavitcher Rebbe says it's going to be okay. Anyway, so the Rebbe tells us that we are entering the era of the redemption, and this is what's happening. So number 2, we have all the our neshamas were planted at this time because we have a vital role to play. Number 3, we were given all the tools that we need, which is the Torah, our guidebook, and the mitzvahs, which are our power tools. And number 4, the most powerful thing that each one of us can do, believe it or not, is to learn about the redemption. The Rebbe says that's the key to hastening it. Learning about it hastens it more than anything else in the world. So, as I was saying that when I was thinking about a title, I picked God Has a Plan because I think that is the most important thing to remember, because it is, you read such horrifying stuff. You see on WhatsApp such horrifying stuff. I try not to, but it leaks in, and it's enough. And not only does it leak in from what's happening in Israel, but also I feel that Hashem is squeezing each one of us personally on top of the world situation. People have all sorts of things happening with them. I had 2 friends who died last week, and that wasn't all. There were a lot of very difficult things. I feel that that Hashem is squeezing us individually, and as we know, it says it in the Torah. It says it in our literature that God does squeeze the Jews. Why? Because we're compared to an olive, and an olive is bitter, but when you squeeze it, sweet oil comes out, and the olive oil is not bitter. The olive is bitter, and so when you squeeze a Jew, and Hashem does squeeze us, the most amazing things come out. the things that we didn't even know about ourselves, strengths that we didn't even know we had. So I just, I read something, somebody on a WhatsApp just scribbled a few lines, and I found them very, very nice. She was just talking. And she said, Hashem is taking us by the hand, and he's saying, I'm always with you. I'm protecting you always. It's a big world out there. You are always safe with me. You have a unique, irreplaceable contribution to make. Yes, it's a big world out there, but your tiny good action is what I, Hashem, am waiting for and need. So, my dear child, go with joy and confidence. Um, you can do your part. Just remember that you're never alone. I am with you every moment, no matter who or what is trying to pull you away from me. I am by your side always. I am always inside you. So, so So what we should focus on is that God has a plan, and we can relax because God has a plan. He has a plan for the world, and he has a plan for us individually. At every single second, God decides how many hairs are going to go on this side of my wig and how many hairs are going to go on the other. He decides every single thing, and I can trust him. And it's worthwhile to repeat that to ourselves. I have this when life was hairy a couple decades ago with my parents and infertility and all sorts of things going on. My parents had one illness, a hair-raising illness after another, and I was always flying into crisis. I think I flew into the flew to the emergency ward in Delaware like 25 times at least. And I came up with something to calm myself. And this is what I say. It's like a little mantra for me. I say, Ribono Shel Olam, I trust you with every ounce of my being that I see your kindness today, because you're the master of kindness, and it is your way to do kindness with your creatures, especially with me. Tati Shabbat Shemayim, please help me see your kindness. So when I declare my faith in Hashem, it brings out faith. There's something very powerful about the mouth. Something very powerful about verbal declarations. When I declare that I'm confident that I'm going to see Hashem's kindness, I have to tell you, Hashem delivers. It's just an amazing system. He's waiting for our trust. So anyway, what God does not focus on and what we should not focus on is the evil. God, as this person who is writing, God focuses on our little good actions. He does not expect us to be perfect. He's so thrilled with our little good actions, whatever they are, even if we do them imperfectly. I have this big Nisayan that I have, and I work so hard at it, but I'm never perfect. And it's okay because I'm making efforts, and that's what counts. And there are so many little good actions that are going on now. I saw a clip and it made me cry and cry and cry. It was so gorgeous. It was a whole group of soldiers at night. They were in a huge circle. They were ready to go to battle. They had their guns. They had everything. And there was a soldier in the middle with his machine gun, whatever it was, also on his shoulder. And he's leading them in Tehillim. He's leading them in songs of faith. And this is exactly, and these people
I saw that. Yeah.
These people are not, they're not from, there are a lot of from people who are in the army now, but the vast majority are not, and they're all saying it with every ounce of their being. And that's exactly what happened at Hanukkah. That's exactly how Yehuda HaMaccabee prepared the soldiers before they went to battle against they were wildly outnumbered by the Greek Syrians, wildly outnumbered with and their weapons were ridiculously primitive compared to the Greek Syrians, which were the most powerful army in the world at the time. How did they prepare? They sang Tehillim to Hashem. That's exactly what Yehuda Maccabee did before every battle, and that's what the Jews. It's so gorgeous, and Hashem sees that. And there are Jewish women lighting candles who never lit candles before. There are, I teach first grade, and my kids in class, they're asking their parents for chores that they can do so that they can earn money to send to Israel. And all these little things, Hashem sees it, and they really are, like they're and there are kids who don't make brachas, and so we have a campaign, brachas for Israel, and they raise their hand in the morning, and I look them straight in the eye, and 7, I did 7 more Shalom. It's so beautiful. So now God designed the Jewish people, as we know, as one body, and when one Jew does a mitzvah, it helps another Jew. It helps Jews all over, especially those in crisis. So, I saw another clip from a Jewish soldier who was, they go into battle for I don't know how long, a week, who knows how long, and then they come back and they refresh themselves, and another group goes. And so one of these guys who was refreshing himself, he gave a big speech in Hebrew, and he said, "You guys, we feel your davening. We feel the difference because of your davening. Please keep davening." And anyway, so there's an interesting thing about squeezing. When Hashem squeezes us, the most interesting things pop out of us, even things that we don't even know that we have. So today, oh, I hope I'm going to be able to do this. Haskell Shimon, don't go too far away in case I need help with opening the video. So please. So anyway, today I got a WhatsApp. I got it several times, and I don't know if it's true or not true, but I don't know if it's true or not true. But some people said that the soldiers. I didn't see anything about it on the news, so I don't know if it's true or not. But the WhatsApp said that the Israelis are storming the some Arab. It's not a hospital. It's on the outside. It's a hospital, but it's really their command central. And they said that the captives are in tunnels right underneath. I forgot what it's called, the She something hospital. And they said the Jews are now attacking it, and they're going against, anyway, and they're trying to, free the captives. And they said everybody should say Avinu Malkeinu. And I grabbed a sitter and I started saying Avinu Malkeinu, and 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 I was hysterical. I was crying so hard when I was saying it. And a part of me, like a rational part of me, was saying, "Look at her davening. I never saw her daven like that." And I'm like sobbing, and the part of me that's sobbing doesn't care about the part that's making the commentary. And the part that's making the commentary is wondering, is she still going to keep sobbing when I'm making this dry commentary? And yes, the other part of me is like, from the depths of my being, I never saw anything like that in me. And it's because we're being squeezed. And when we're squeezed, we understand we are all one. And it's like, it's an amazing unity that we have. No other people in the world has this. And so anyway, I want to show you a little video about what one person says the war is doing to him. It's very beautiful. I hope you'll stay on. Yaskel Shimon, come. I need to get the video. Can you come here? No, I need you right now. I need you right now, please. Where's the video? I don't see it.
What?
I don't see the video.
Oh, I don't know. This is taking over all the
share screen. Okay.
What? Oh,
you can't
stop.
zoom in your.
I can't zoom this back out again. So can you stop this now?
Stop what?
Just stop doing the share business.
Okay, fine. Let's see. I'll stop share. Here, I think it's. Oh, did they
just say just close those windows here?
No. Oh, I'll stop share.
Stop.
Okay. Oh no. Okay. Good. Now. Okay.
Oh, okay. Now.
Okay. Now I can open it.
Now you can open it.
Okay. I hope it's going to be big.
All right, so I have a confession.
Okay, can you see it?
It's going to be true for a lot of Jews out there, and it's a big lesson for you Jew haters. So I suggest you listen, all you anti-Zionists. Growing up, my Jewish identity was a completely secondary part of my life. I never even thought about it really. My parents had told me stories about what they went through. My mom had to escape Iraq because she was a Jew, and my dad, sadly, most of his family was killed off in the Holocaust. But I never personalized it. It was never something that was super, super real to me. And it was just stories of things that they went through. Then after October 7th, seeing the way the world responded to the attack and the amount of Jew hatred that actually exists kind of woke up my Jewish side, made me reconnect with it fully. And I think people don't realize just how many Jews out there have reconnected with their Jewish identities. We were disappearing. We were marrying non-Jews at exceptional numbers. Most of us don't follow the religion. I mean, look at me, I'm covered in tats. And now so many of us are activated. You strengthen us when you attack us. We were disappearing. So I have to say thank you to everyone who has reminded all of us Jews what it actually means to be Jewish. Thank you for showing us the true face of anti-Semitism. And thank you for uniting us once again, because I promise you, we're stronger than ever.
Is that gorgeous? Yeah. Stop share. Okay, good. Here we are back. Okay, good. So, on that note, Hashem is doing
Mr. Hoodis, was that on YouTube or somebody sent you that on WhatsApp?
on WhatsApp. Do you want me to send it to you?
No, it's okay.
Fine.
I mean,
It's on WhatsApp. Yeah. Yeah.
just because I have so many things. I have like
Don't worry.
have
I don't have to send it.
videos of like bunches of Hasidim like dancing with all the guys in the army, and
Yes. Don't worry about it. I don't have to say it. I thought you wanted. Anyway, I'm going to end the class because I have to teach and I didn't prepare anything yet. And so I want to thank you all for joining. And I want to remind us that I think he said it better than anybody else. I want to tell you two little things. Okay, this guy was in the war and he was shot and he went into a coma. And he was in a coma for days. And they brought his 2-year-old daughter next to him. And the 2-year-old daughter said, Abba, wake up. And he woke up. He's out of the coma. Is that incredible? That's the bond between a father and a daughter. And then Jonathan Sacks, it's a beautiful quote. He's not alive anymore, but it's a beautiful quote from him. I don't know if it's probably backwards here. Anyway, it says,
no, it's good.
It's good. So it says, to be a Jew, just going to read it to you. To be a Jew is to be a part of the most remarkable story ever lived by any people, covering more countries, more adverse circumstances, more triumphs and tragedies than any other story. Every one of us has a chapter to write in that story and hand the book on. That's what it means to be a Jew. It is the most remarkable story of all time, and we're all part of it. We're all this big, it's an amazing thing. And Hashem loves us. It's the biggest love story of all time. It's not the way we would write a love story, but it's the biggest love story of all time. So anyway, with that, I want to conclude. I have to go to my work, and I want to thank you all for joining. And may we share good news, very, very, very good news. And I'm going to turn off the recording.